Failed to post a tweet. Streamlabs. Oh, well. Oh, the clock is still at the bottom part of my screen. That's nice. Wait. Ew. Yeet. There we go. That is gone. It's gone. Alrighty. We're gonna just make sure everything is working properly because I haven't done this in 5 months. And then we are going to discuss what there is to discuss, because there's a lot to talk about, my friends. Whole lot of stuff that is going to be ongoing here in the next few days. Stemming from the severe outbreak, possible severe outbreak tomorrow. Talk about that. The other impacts that are going to be caused by this, i.e. Northeast wind stuff, because that's fun. And what could follow after it. So there is a whole lot that we need to get into today. I don't plan on being here forever. Among other things, I have some work that I need to catch up on because I've been sick and I've been out from school. So fun times there. And I'm still not fully healthy. You guys may hear that a little bit here and there. I also also need to catch up on sleep. So we're going to work on that. But regardless, good afternoon, folks, and welcome back to another severe weather discussion. My name is Morgan J. Fold. So this afternoon, we are going to discuss what could possibly or possibly not happen on Tuesday. Tuesday is a very complex and tricky setup. I personally have not gone through the newest suite. I just got home a little while ago. So I'm going to go through it myself here. Hi, howdy, how's everyone? Good to see you guys in the chat there. Oh, what? Oh, that's more. Alright, cool. Then it does it again. Cold front just doesn't shove. And snow in western Texas. Alright. It's called December. Hi, Morgan. Been a while. It has been a while. Life's ridiculous. Good to see EE. Good to see you, Bat. I am not really. Actually, I'm lying. I'm gonna hesitate just a little bit because I just need to make sure everything's set, and I need to make sure my computer's gonna work correctly. So I'm just gonna hesitate a smidge. Just look at this here. The age-old question, is it hyped or is it not? So with that being said, yes. And the reason I say yes is because there's still way too much to figure out before people call this a high ceiling tornado outbreak. Now, I'm going to be totally honest. Yes, tornadic potential is there. Ceiling is there. There could be some serious problems tomorrow. Could there be some problems kinematic-wise as well? Absolutely. So, let's get into this here. So, what this system is going to do... Oh, I didn't pull up my pen tool. Oh, no. Open that. It's only when I think about it that I actually remember to pull it up. And it'll get larger. There we go. Click here to download. I don't want to click here to download. No. 9. I don't want to download Epic Pen. Go away. Cool. Here. Enlarging. Cool. Low pressure. Big deepening low pressure. It's going to be shoved by a high pressure coming down the Rockies. You're going to have a long extending cold front. Now, the thing with this, however, is that the cold front is actually not what's going to be driving the activity down here. What's going to be driving that is an open warm sector. And the problem with that is the cap is weak enough that I have a feeling it might overconvect. And we also might be dealing with some other issues going into that. Hi, Julie. Good to see you. How's it look for Central West Florida with the possible outbreak? So that's an interesting spot. I should switch to cams. What am I doing? Cams. I'm gonna step on the cams tonight. It's not what I wanted. We're gonna come over here. And let's drop south. So, few main things here. Number one, this is going to be affecting a lot of people. A whole lot of people. I feel like I should actually pull up the risk area as well. I feel like that might be helpful. Here's this when it chooses to work. In the meantime, I think it's loading. Yep, there we go. So, a lot of people, okay? Greater Memphis area, which is right about here. Greater Memphis area is one of the main areas that's going to be impacted by this. They are on the northern edge. I don't believe they're in it, but they are on the northern edge of it, like right about here. Jackson, right here. Monroe, right here. It's on the borders, and I don't think that's done by coincidence at all. It's on the borders here. A lot of major populace is going to be impacted by this. A lot of major populace. What else? Nashville, right here. Tuscaloosa, you remember 2011, right there. Birmingham, right up I-65. You've got New Orleans down here, which I think they may actually expand the slight risk a little bit farther to include that area. We're going to have to see. Mobile right here. There's a lot of areas that are going to be impacted by this. Millions of people, tens of millions of people here. Just as you can see by the area population. So if you guys are in the green, so if you guys are in this area outlined in the darker green, you are in the 1 out of 5 risk for severe thunderstorms. So this includes areas like Houston. This includes St. Louis, Chattanooga. You guys are even included in it down here. Montgomery, Alabama, Louisville. You guys are going to be watching out for possibly scattered risk for severe storms. If you are in the yellow, if you guys are in the yellow outline here, you guys are in a 2 out of 5, which means, again, scattered, but maybe a little bit more of a chance to possibly see some stronger activity. If you're in the 3 out of 5, highlighted in the orange, you guys really need to be concerned for tomorrow. There is the possibility for, at the very minimum, some very strong damaging wind gusts to push through your area in the evening and overnight time frame. And the problem and the issues with overnight is just that's where it starts. Overnight severe weather is always dangerous because it's much harder to track, especially for people that are in the risk. It's also more difficult for storms to really maintain structure, and we're going to get into that. But particularly if you are in the 4 out of 5, this includes Bartlett as the largest area, and surrounding a lot of areas, Memphis, Jackson, Monroe, Louisiana, Meridian even. Those areas are the areas that need to really be watched. Baton Rouge, not as much of an impact zone there. You guys, that area is down closer to the coastline. You guys aren't going to really get as much there. They're being cautious due to the number that would be affected. No, not a coincidence. I just think that there's too much uncertainty still. I do believe that there's way too many questions to still be answered, and that's going to be answered with morning observations tomorrow. So, The risk is tornado driven, and the significant risk does expand in the orange, which is why in the 3 out of 5 risk, which is why I bring up the fact that the people in the 3 out of 5 risk, which includes Memphis, Jackson, and Monroe, really need to be on high alert. The wind risk, that is non-sig. That is different from what it was earlier, including the Memphis, Jackson, and Monroe areas once again. Shreveport, you guys are just excluded out of this. And then again, the scattered risk for areas like Houston and St. Louis. Hail risk, really not as much of a threat here. You're talking Memphis, Nashville, and the 2 out of 5 risk for possible damaging hail. But I don't really foresee that being as much of a concern as, say, the tornado threat. So, there's a lot to get into this. And there's a lot to get into this about. So we're going to start here. I'm going to look at the news suite, and I'm going to compare it to some other stuff, just to see if I'm crazy. Could you see a possible high risk either tonight or tomorrow morning based off the current models? Based off the models? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. They are not going to go high risk on an event that has so many fail modes as of now. And the timing of it is really tricky. The timing of it is very tricky. Overnight events are so hard to forecast. They're also more dangerous for the public. So we're going to have to see how that goes. So here is your overnight time frame. It's going to be very calm going through the night. Some scattered showers. Some scattered showers may start to pop up. You can see some banding that's moving off towards the north and east. This is going to be prefrontal activity, pre-severe weather activity. This could entail some possible strong damaging winds, maybe nothing more. The main event really does occur as you get later on into the night. That stuff pushes off and a new wave of storms forms. You know what? Look better on this. It would look much better on that. That wave pushes off, could possibly go severe as it goes downwind into areas of Mississippi. I don't see that being a tornadic threat though. And then you get your tornadic supercells that are going to fire across parts of Louisiana and along the Mississippi River. I already see just 3, 4, or 5 in this area right here as projected by the simulated reflectivity. And then down here you have a couple hooking supercells, but that's going to be a little bit messy. So that's a little bit more uncertain at this time. What we do need to watch, though, is the potential for those supercells to really impact the higher populous areas. So that includes Monroe, that includes Jackson, as you get into the pitch black time of day. Now, as the event goes along, more stuff is going to convect, and I also have concerns, and I'm going to talk about it here. I'm going to take a sounding. I'm going to take soundings really across the board here in a little bit, and we're going to take a look at the environment, and I'm going to talk about my concerns because I have a fair few of them. A lot of shower and thunderstorm activity. You're talking about 10 o'clock Central Daylight Time at that point. Take this, since we are in Daylight Savings Time, take the 04Z of Wednesday. You need to subtract 6 hours. So you need to go back to what would be 22 o'clock on Tuesday, Central Daylight Time. You're subtracting 6 hours for Central, 5 hours for Eastern. So this would put you at 10 p.m. Central Daylight Time on Tuesday at this time frame. So a lot of strong damaging winds. That could be where your hail threat arises, really in the southern areas where the moisture inflow is just going to be going right into the storm. The southern areas I really think are going to be the areas that have possibly more hail. It's going to be northernly where maybe less moisture returns. They're going to be dealing with something like that. What was I saying? Yes, overconvection. At the time, at about the midnight hour Central Time is really going to be where stuff turns to wind. At that point, really, just everything convects. Everything convects. So therefore, you are going to turn into a linear mode at that point, and that's going to be the end of that. Let's take a look here. And let's start from the bottom up. Let's take a look at surface cape. So one of the issues we're going to have with this event is surface heating, and that's usually an issue with events around this time of year. At the time that the event fires off, you're talking like 1 to 2,000 cape, really across the board, and it's not even really going to get beyond the Mississippi River region. So you've got that, as you get toward the, I should go a little bit farther back here. So let's take this. As you get toward the time of initiation, you've got enough. You've absolutely got enough. I do want to say, though, there are a bunch of things that I do want to note with soundings like this. So at the initial point of time in which storm initiation occurs, at that point in time is where your best tornado threat exists. Everything's going to be scattered. The environment is going to be shot because of diurnal cooling. And diurnal cooling is what occurs when the sun goes down, which occurs earlier in this time of year. It is November the 28th. So at that point in time, you're going to be dealing with less CAPE as storms progress off to the north and east. Still sufficient amounts by far, but there are some concerns that I need to talk about. But I do want to find a better sounding. So what we're going to do is we're going to come down here and we're going to look at some crossovers. And we're going to see where possibly the best sounding might be. Look at the FV3 model. It shows violence. Oh, boy. Oh, fun. I will take a look at that in a minute here. I do want to get this through, though. Okay. The sounding is good. The sounding is appropriate. So one thing that I have concerns with, which the HRRR actually seems to have resolved a little bit on this suite, is how moist the profile is, going up to about 3 kilometers. What this does as a result is not only is the cloud layer very thick at the surface when the temperature and dew points are surface temperature and dew point are closely connected together on this line. So you see the red line right there, the green line right next to it before it curls off. That's where your cloud layers are. So not only is there only one of them, but it is very thick. You're talking 70 degrees here at this point in time. You're talking about 70, maybe a little bit lower than that at this point. So, yes, moisture exists. Yes, it's there. It's present. Too much of it. What happened with November 4th was different in that this wasn't a problem as much so. Yes, it overconvected. Yes, a lot of stuff actually did manage to go wrong with the forecast. Yes, there were still strong tornadoes, which is why I'm not just totally brushing this off. This is there's totally a possibility for tornado outbreak to occur tomorrow. But what I'm saying is that there's a few issues. So, starting with this. A little bit too much of a moist profile. They're very close on to each other, the temperature and dew point, which is going to result in cloudiness. This also hinders the lapse rates. So this box down here, and actually, you know what? I can do this. We're going to zoom in a little bit. This box down here, surface to 3 kilometer above ground level, AGL lapse rate. 6.3 is okay. It's not that good. And this is the best I've seen. And for something like Dixie Alley, where it really does depend on the moisture return and the amount of it you can get, something like that's gonna cap it. That's gonna cap the event. Another issue that I have, and I'm gonna use November 4th as the poster child here, so to speak, because there were so many things interesting about that really made me turn my head at. November 4th taught me a lot about what actually impacts severe weather beyond Cape Helicity and all that jazz, and how much an actual wind profile means to stuff like that. I know it sounds ridiculous, but there's a lot to it. Way more than I thought. Let's start with the wind profiles. Look at where these wind barbs go. Let's take from this line here, which is just above 1 kilometer. They all kind of go in the same direction. With November 4th, what we had was a very strongly veering wind profile from the surface all the way up to about 4 kilometers roughly. Very strongly veering. And then beyond that, it was even veering above too, about 500 millibars roughly. It was still veering at that point, just a little bit less and then it continued up the ladder. There isn't that with this, and that's a problem, because then you don't have any spin in the atmosphere. So what this would result in, and what I should do, I should take an example of what'll happen when that's not the case. So I'm just going to touch up on this. Aiken, South Carolina on Wednesday. I can take care of that. I just want to get through this really quickly. I just want to talk about this for 1 second. And we're going to choose the 3 kilometer here because it reaches. So, take a look here. And obviously, Wednesday, during the day, not great. But it's an example, and that's what I need. So, let's just take, and I need to go further south, don't I? Yep. Let's take something from the middle of the day on Wednesday. Wednesday is projected to be a very weak wind threat. Very weak wind threat. Okay, that is the Carolinas. I'm really just going to have to do this. Well, this will do the trick. Look at where these wind barbs go. The threat exists on, it is Andrew's weather predictions. Good to see you. What did I miss? Not much. I'm really just trying to make a point of emphasis. I'm voicing concerns of Tuesday's forecast. So, look at where all the wind barbs go. They're all straight. Wednesday is forecasted to be a damaging wind threat up and down the Appalachians and down into the south. Excuse me. Damaging wind threat, very windy rain. What's going to happen if that... What's going to happen is that similar profile here. And I'm going to find the sounding again because that was actually a solid sounding. Very good at proving my point. Right here. Oh, this is a bit... Oh, okay. So, again, folks, cloud layer going up to about a little shorter this time, but still pretty closely connected, up to about 3 kilometers, and then it cuts off. What happens here is there's even less of a temperature drop off. Your lapse rates aren't even 6 at the surface. So that's also going to inhibit storm development because the colder temperatures are, the more explosive your development is going to be. I need to turn the light a little bit closer to me, don't I? But at the same time, don't want it to glare on my camera. That's good enough, right? Yeah, it'll adjust. So what'll happen is as the storm goes farther and farther up, the actual structure of the storm is going to get worse and worse and worse because the temperatures aren't as cold. You need those cold temperatures above the surface for storms to really just keep shooting. That's how you get A, hail, and B, continued development farther up, among other things. Cape also supports that. So those lapse rates, if they're at the surface and they aren't even 6, you're really not going to get widespread tornadic activity. You're really not. And that's been an inhibiting factor of numerous events that I can recall that were supposed to do really well and then got choked. Because not only does that support weaker storms at the surface, like weaker rotating storms at the surface, but it also supports overconvection. What this sounding does do, though, is it solves, it solves my veering concerns. Now, above 600 millibars, it's really all the same. You guys can see that. It's really still all the same. But it does veer from a north-northwesterly to a northeasterly on this sounding, which is improvement. That would help the veering at the surface. So, that does fix one of my concerns. I also want to note the LCLs are incredibly low here. Cloud level basically is what LCLs measure. You can see they're almost down. These are going to be ground scrapers, and that's a problem as well. So there's going to be some mergers, especially with the saturated and extremely moist low level is going to need that since there's weak forcing and could lead to dominant supercells. It could. The problem is that overconvection is still a concern, though, with that extremely moist profile at the surface. If the lapse rates don't improve, and if the excuse me, do I have water in here? No, I don't. Cool. If the lapse rates don't improve, and if the veering doesn't get substantially better, I think this is going to be capped at what would be roughly a 10 sig. Now, does this mean that you should not be concerned for tomorrow? Absolutely not. You should definitely be concerned for tomorrow. Tomorrow still has the potential to produce significant tornadoes. I just don't think it was wise for the SBC to go moderate at this stage. I still have a bunch of concerns. But I do think that they are making the safe call. I think they're making the safe call. They've got to do what they have to do to protect the public, and in an instance like this, where it's in the middle of the night, no one's going to really be able to know. People are going to be asleep. A bunch of people are going to be asleep as this goes through their area. The National Weather Service and the Storm Prediction Center need to find a way to get these people to know that stuff is coming their way even when they're in bed. So, this supports the bioweather radio conversation. This supports the always be weather aware conversation, because you don't know what's going to happen at any time of day. So, if any of you watching this are weather nerds like me and keep up with this on a daily, it's not applicable for you because you already know. Normal people aren't going to know. They're not going to care. They're going to go to sleep and they're going to be thinking about their Wednesday. So that's where I think the moderate risk comes into play. The public perception of something like that is so much more different, and they have to do that in order to really get the message across, among other things. Yes. Everyone should take every severe risk seriously. Even marginals. Marginals deserve their love. But in the public eye, when they don't see either a higher number or big, bright, flashy colors, they don't think anything's going to happen. They're not going to take it seriously. They're going to keep going, and whatever happens, happens. I'd like to remind you that El Reno occurred in a 5. And some other significant tornadoes occurred in a 5. Brunswick, North Carolina, EF4, 5%. Very coastal 5% as well, I will note. I don't remember if Mullica Hill, New Jersey was in the 5 or the 10. I was with Ida. And I don't remember. I should know. That was my hometown. Well, Mullica Hill is not my hometown, but it was in my backyard. I should know, and I don't know. Oh well. What else? Fultondale, Alabama, just outside of Birmingham. EF3, new people that were impacted. I don't believe that it was in anything higher than a 10 non. Because that was an overnight gusty wind threat, or it was supposed to be. Noonan 5 tor. Noonan was a 5 tor. That is a very good point. I forgot about that one. How did I forget about that one? See, I'm remembering ones that I've streamed. I didn't stream Ida. I'm a terrible YouTuber. I didn't stream Ida. I was upstate with my family. And I remember actually putting my computer down as the tornado emergency for Trenton got issued. People don't forget. Mayfield was not an EF10. It was an EF4, and I think it was... Excuse me. I believe it was in the 10. I believe it was SIGD, though. So, my point stands. Get a weather radio. Be weather aware. Heed local authority. And I can't begin to count on 2 hands how many people I've seen on Twitter in particular, which may make sense, it may add up, that are just blatantly disobeying public authority. Yeah, it's ridiculous. SPC outlooks rarely predict those single outlier storms. They more predict the number of storms. They predict like the most highly trafficked areas of storms. So stuff like, you know, we've had this conversation before. 317, 325, those outlier storms were in the high risk. So they forecast where the highest density of them is going to be, and then they really piece it together as to like where the acceptable risk area would be. Stuff like that, stuff like those outlooks did a fantastic job. Fantastic job. Absolutely. They did it as well as they could have. Do you think they'll fatten the moderate risk? Well, they are in the process of doing so. A little while ago, it was a little bit thinner. At this point in time, it has bulked up a little bit. They've expanded it a little bit further west. Excuse me, that is east. West, as Nathan Snyder would say. Morgan, what do you think of tomorrow's setup versus Mayfield last year? Similar. Thank you. Let's get to that next. And I'm going to switch to the NAM at this point because we need to look at a little bit of a broader scheme. So, actually, I have these tools at my disposal. I'm lucky as heck. All right. So, December 2021, December 10. December 10. Next map. Yes. Okay. Low pressure here. It's right on top of the event. So the low pressure here was right on top of the event. Really was driving it. It was a driving force as really all the tornadoes ripped through as far north as central Illinois, as far south as the Tennessee-Alabama border. Stuff really went all across the board there. December 10 was also an incredible day. I'm never going to forget that in my life. And that's part of the reason that I'm going to school for what I'm going to be doing. This is going to be a late afternoon nocturnal event. It is going to be nocturnal. It's going to be overnight. And part of the problem with that is it's more difficult to forecast. And I just went on my whole rant. This is why you need a weather radio. This is why you need a weather radio. Because people aren't going to be... At nocturnal events, people aren't going to be caring enough. Because it's outside their normal day. So, it's different at that point. So, I digress. Strong surface cyclone pushing up into the Great Lakes on top of the event. This is different in that the actual cyclone isn't entirely on top of the event. You can see it. The center of pressure is dragging north. It's already in the Great Lakes. And I should discuss the wintry threat that will also occur with this. But the center of low pressure is not as strong, and it's also way off the main event. And the cold front's also going to be off the event. So there's a couple things because of this. Aiken, South Carolina. Yes, let me get to that just really quickly. I need to pull up something here that I meant to look up earlier. I need to just do it really quickly. Okay, got that done. Jeez, I've been meaning to do that for quite some time. Okay. Aiken. Aiken is northeast of Augusta. Augusta is on the border of Georgia and South Carolina. So, with that said, I'm just going to quickly yank Wednesday's risk. Excuse me. You guys are in a 1 out of 5, or on the border of a 1 out of 5. I don't believe there's really going to be anything significant to come out of Wednesday other than some maybe localized damaging wind gusts, maybe a brief tornado farther coastal. But other than that, I really don't think you guys are in that much of a risk area. Just like I've said already, just be on the lookout for some possible impacts. That would be in the afternoon time frame on Wednesday. Cloud the radar in Little Rock is delaying their maintenance. I did see that, and glad they can. I'm glad it's not like down or anything like that where they have to get it taken care of. Yeah, I'm glad they're doing that really well on them. Anacoco, Louisiana. That's west of Alexandria. That's way south. So you guys are definitely in the risk tomorrow. You guys are in the 2 out of 5. You guys are well in the 2 out of 5. I wouldn't be. Let me put this way. I went through this whole speech earlier. I will say it again. If you're in the 2 out of 5, you should be cautiously aware. You should be cautiously aware. I don't think too much terrible stuff is going to happen in that area. I think that's going to be more confined to the areas northeast of you. But that area of western Louisiana will need to be on the lookout because that's where initiation is going to begin. So that's maybe where some of the tornadic activity occurs in isolated forms. I don't believe that's where significant activity is going to occur. But do watch out if you're in that area during the Wednesday late afternoon, early evening, or excuse me, the Tuesday late afternoon, early evening time frame. Got home from school, wanted to know if there was any updates on the SBC outlook smiles before I check myself. They widened the moderate a little bit, as well as the enhanced a little bit farther to the east. No more than that as of now. No more than that. Do you think there's a chance of intense violent tornadoes? If it doesn't overconvect and if those lapse rates can actually be sufficient. Like I said, if that can resolve, we've got a problem on our hands. Because the veering will be sufficient and there will be an open environment. There's one more problem, though, and I'm going to get to that in just 1 sec. These are worried for Wednesday as South Carolina because the line of storms will push through Wednesday. I don't believe it'll be all that bad. It may be a lot of rain more than anything else, to tell you the truth. So we're going to get to this, and I want to talk about this because this is very important. I'm on the 18C. Vorticity, all right? Vorticity is the amount of volatility in the atmosphere at any given point. So, example, there's a lot of it around centers of low pressure, a lot of it along cold fronts, a lot of it along boundaries and vorticity can be used really to tell where boundaries are at. SPC said strong long track tornadoes. I would have to read the discussion myself. I'm going to go into that later on. Do you think there will be a high risk tomorrow? I've answered that already, and the answer is, as of now, no. I don't believe there will be a high risk at that point. At this point, at least. They would need more confidence. They would need a lot more. They would need a lot more information to figure that out. What do you think Georgia will get? Wednesday, you guys are in a 1 out of 5 risk for damaging wind gusts. Wednesday afternoon, you guys are in a 1 out of 5 risk. I would not expect anything too significant to head your way. Just be weather aware in the afternoon hours. So, here's where your secondary low pressure spins up. Everything spits out of the Rockies. I've learned this after following this stuff for a few years. This spits out of the Rockies. The problem is, there's really no vorticity axis where the severe weather is supposed to occur. You get some activity that's a result of the warm sector shoving and the northerly flow. You don't really have, here's your front. Maybe here's your front. I'm not sure. Maybe here's your boundary. The threat is really highlighted here. There is no vorticity boundary there. And I'm going to reference 11.4 into the ground. On the 4th, there was a vorticity axis on surface observations along that area of eastern Texas where all the tornadoes spawned. Up and down that corridor of I-35. 35? 35. 35, yes, I know that. Yes, I-35. Good job, Morgan. That isn't present here. And it hasn't been. So let's just... So I don't want the pen job. 0Z. This is where stuff really is supposed to be going over the top at this point. The vorticity is where the storms are. That's creating the spin. That's not how that works entirely. Now, to be fair, maybe they won't really need as strong of an axis as it needed on the 4th, but at the same time, that vorticity axis on the 4th really supplied the void that the modest lapse rates left behind. The lapse rates aren't good on this. So there's a possibility that one or two of those in combination fails this event because there's just not enough to spin at that 7 o'clock, 8 o'clock time frame. I mean, we look here. So if I freeze frame this, hour 33, and I'm going to just do that. Here's where stuff needs to be. Here's where stuff needs to be. This is where the front is. And that's about it. Let's check the 12Z. There's the front. There's the storms. Nothing really spawning from them. Let's check the 6Z. Here's the front. There's the storms. Nothing there. Let's check the 0Z. Here's the front. There's the storms. And in fact, there's a little bit of a boundary there, a little bit of a weaker axis. My point is, you need that axis for the storms to really spin off of, and that creates those long track supercells. It's not there. So, in the next day or few hours or something, I want to see that resolved before I make any like, what's the word? Confident moderate risk statements. Any of that. Before Genesis in Alabama, where hits at night, not many, unless immediately affected, don't find out till the next day. That's why you have a weather radio. That is why you get a weather radio to inform you of warnings and stuff like that as the National Weather Service issues them. And here's a point that I've seen again and again and again and again. They don't issue warnings for... They give me alerts when warnings aren't issued for my county, and they're issued for surrounding ones. There's a setting for that. At least on some of the weather radios, not all of them. But I get that complaint a lot, and my point is better safe than sorry, no? And if you say, I don't want to be impacted, then you turn it off when you're not supposed to be impacted. But when you are, you turn it on again. And if you get alerts from other counties, neighboring counties, so be it. You know it's there. I can't emphasize enough how important a weather radio is. I'm going to beat that into the ground forever and ever and ever. It's going to happen. I don't know. I've said that a bunch of times. I've gone through it so many times. My point is, there's no vorticity axis at the lower levels, which is where it really needs to be. At the upper levels, you can see this is where the whole system is. This is where the whole system lies. Driving out from the south and west up through the north and east. Big Fujiwara effect of the mid-level cyclones. There's no vorticity axis. None to speak of where the storms are located. And that might be an issue tomorrow. So, I've said my part. I'm going to say this again. Regardless, tomorrow should still be taken seriously. It is still a moderate risk. It is still a level 4 risk for strong damaging tornadoes around areas like Monroe, Louisiana, Jackson, Mississippi, Memphis, Tennessee. What was I going to say? Should still be taken seriously. You need to have non-perishable supplies on hand if you guys are in this impact area or in this forecasted impact area. You need to have food, water, non-perishable food, water, medical supplies. What else? Sturdy footwear, that's important. Coats, stuff like that. You need to have all of that ready for the worst case scenario. And I'll always have my doubts. I'm very conservative when it comes to this, but what I'm not conservative on is preparedness. And I'm always going to make sure that even if I don't think something's going to happen, I'm going to be prepared for it. That's my view on it. And some people don't view it the same way as me, and that's fine. Um, I rest assured that it just did the thing. I rest assured that there will be many people in the future that don't agree with me on stuff, and that is up to them. It will be what it will be. Kenner, Louisiana. Let's take a look. And with that said, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to open it up to any questions, comments, remarks that you guys might have in the chat. And if there aren't too many of those, I'm going to leave you all to your Monday evening. Oh. So, Kenner. Oh, that's NOLA. New Orleans, you guys aren't in as much of there. You're on the border of the 2 out of 5, and I think it may be expanded, so you guys are going to need to watch out for some possible strong damaging wind activity, maybe a tornado or two down in that region. Definitely going to need to watch out for a tornado or two. You guys are in the 2 out of 5 risk. So, like I said, the important thing is that you are weather aware and that you're keeping up with everything during the day tomorrow. That's the best way for you to prepare. Weather radios are a must in 2019 Memorial Day night. Tornadoes in Dayton, Ohio. 2 cell towers were taken down by tornadoes, so counting on cell phone apps isn't a great idea. Yeah, you can't just rely on that. And particularly in dense populace, that's where that's going to happen. And as much as we don't like to think about something like that, it happens. Dense populace does get impacted. Mayfield, Brunswick, Centerville, Tuscaloosa, Fulton, Dale. I'm just naming them off the top of my head. Populace gets impacted. And this argument is for another day, but that's also one of the reasons that I think the EF scale should be changed, but I'm going to digress because I don't want to have that discussion today. That is something I would need to prepare a whole speech for. So with that said, any questions y'all might have, I'm opening up the floor to the people of the stream. I'm going to just scroll through some other models as that occurs. I'm going to talk really quickly just about the other impact of this that will occur, and that is the wintry aspect of everything. So on the northern side of the system, you're going to be dealing with some pretty heavy snowfall across the Great Lakes. Nothing you guys aren't accustomed to, but it is going to hit you by surprise. Really coming in Tuesday, early morning, afternoon to the evening, you guys across the St. Paul area, northern Iowa, southeastern Minnesota, northern Wisconsin, Duluth, those types of areas, and and northern Michigan. The UP. It's going to hit you by surprise, and it's going to be some very strong damaging winds that will occur with it. You could definitely see some blizzard conditions for that time frame, as you can see on the back of it there. And additionally, out in front of it, what we're going to be dealing with Wednesday really across the Appalachians is some very, very strong damaging winds. Cincinnati looks like a 1 out of 5. Am I seeing the map right? If you're looking at this, Cincinnati tomorrow is a 0. They're in a general. Cincinnati, and I think. I wouldn't be surprised if it got expanded though. It'll depend on how far the surface low tracks. What we're going to be dealing with really across the board in the Northeast on Wednesday is a very strong regional wind event that could be an infrastructure issue. Could definitely knock down some power lines. There's going to be some very strong winds across areas of New York along the lakes. It's going to extend all the way down toward the Delmarva where wind gusts could top out in the 40s. So you are going to need to expect that as the cold front shoves in the afternoon and evening hours of Wednesday. If you are along, let's see, if you're along I-87, I believe, is the interstate that's lines that. Um, yeah, it is 87. Look at me knowing my geography of the Northeast. Areas like Albany are going to be impacted pretty strong. If you guys are in Burlington, Vermont, if anyone from Burlington, Vermont is watching the stream, you guys need to watch out up there. Really anywhere along that area. And then if you're on the coastline, it's self-explanatory. You guys know what the drill is. You're going to be dealing with some tropical storm force wind gusts up there. Batten down the hatches. Wednesday night's going to be pretty rough for y'all if you're along coastal Maine, really anywhere up and down the coast through about Atlantic City. This includes Cape Cod. Goodness gracious, yeah, that's pretty significant. The gusts are one thing, but the regular, just plain surface winds are going to be another thing, and they're going to be pretty strong. You don't really see this very often unless it's in the dead of winter and you're getting a blizzard type event. But there's going to be some issues tomorrow. There's going to definitely be some problems that we're going to be dealing with in terms of infrastructure once this all pushes out. Tomorrow, I should really be looking at this for my sake. It's going to get humid, and it's going to get a little bit warm on Wednesday, and then it shoves, and then it's cold again. Whoopee. That's cool. Weather's fun. Yeah. I'm just going to check this one more time. And if you guys have no questions, I'm going to leave you all to your Wednesday evening. Wednesday evening? It is Monday. I appreciate all for coming out. This is my first time in 5 months going on the open mic. I do appreciate the support y'all have given me throughout this. Pretty strong on the channel. I know I'm planning to upload more, and I plan to get on this more. It feels very natural to me, and I don't know why, because I don't really have interest in going into the broadcast industry, but maybe I should. Maybe I should look into it. Yeah, nothing really of note other than maybe a couple more of these storms. That's a lot of snow. That's a big cyclone. Goodness gracious. And nothing really abstract. So, with that said, folks, I'm going to leave y'all to it. Thank you so much for tuning into this. I do hope I was able to help somebody out in some way, shape, or form. Whether it be one of you, whether it be 10 of you, whether it be more than that. If you guys did enjoy this, please be sure to hit a like button down below. Also hit the subscribe button if you guys are new around here. Click the notification bell if you guys want to be notified every time I go live once in a blue moon. And hopefully I should be on a little bit more after the holiday season. I've got a lot going on. I always do. But with that, I'm going to leave you all to your Monday evening. Thank you so much for tuning in. My name is Morgan J. Fold. I'll see you next time.